Hey, this is Alexander Grace. He covers relationships between men and women. His channel is really big. It's over 400,000 subs. So let's see if he gets this right.
For you guys who read the George Orwell book, 1984, do you remember the scene where all of the citizens in Oceania encouraged to scream abuse and throw all of their hatred for 2 minutes at this figure? It's this ritual where they are shown a picture of the enemy, and it's just like 2 minutes of like viciousness. It is a mandatory expression of anger. Everybody screaming and yelling and getting physical, and the party makes everybody do this because
Exactly. However, in real life, no one forces women to do anything like this. So we'll see if Alexander Grace gets it right.
it's very effective. It's very useful. But of course, in the modern era, we don't need to force women to express their hatred to men. They just go on social media without anybody asking them to, and they just volunteer it. They just confess it.
Thank you. Thank you. You got it right, Grace. Let's hear this.
I think men should start off in jail, prove their way to society, that they're good people. We can release them.
That sounds a little man-hating, don't you think?
But don't you think? Grace, that guy talking is a weakling. He's a woman worshiper. And he'll invite women like that on, and he'll kiss their posterior. Now, this woman's projecting. It's the other way around. Her gender needs to prove itself worthy, because they have proven themselves to be hateful to men unjustly.
There's more bad men than there are bad women. I think men should start off in jail.
Whatever.
This is a total lie. Grace, I want you to know something. Mothers circumcised their sons. They wouldn't let it happen to their daughters. Right? The most child abuse is done by single mothers. You have to understand this in order to fight what she's saying here.
They're good men, and then they can be, released into society.
The most elder abuse is done by women. There are far worse women than men.
And I think women should... That's
like one of the most sexist, man-hating, misandrous things
That's not true, no.
Why do these women even bother denying it? What's the point? They are so obviously sexist and bigoted in their opinions, and they are so comfortable expressing these kind of feminist, fascist ideals that they have. There's no shame, there's no fear.
Exactly. And this is the other thing. Not only did you point out this is unjust, so you get that right, Grace, right? That's the one thing that you got right. I'm glad you're catching up on this, right?
My question is, at what point do we stop believing the line that we have been force-fed, that this is just a reaction to their victimization? This is
at puberty. Men have to start talking to each other. We have to start getting to children when they hit puberty. When boys start ogling girls and wanting to be with them, that's when they need to be taught. That's when they need to be warned. They need to be shown videos like this. This should be recorded, archived, and shown to young boys and said, look, this woman is not lying. This is how she feels.
Women struggling to know how to deal with living in the patriarchy. This is because her great-great-grandmother couldn't vote. I mean, fuck off.
Dude, I want to tell you something, Grace, right? I just want to make sure I got your name right. Yeah, it is Grace. Alexander, men also couldn't vote in the past. Guys who didn't own land, like you and me, we couldn't vote. And we had to sign up for conscription, or I should say our ancestors did. These women got to vote without doing it. So the men gained a right. The women gained a privilege. You have to understand the history of male-female dynamics.
Give me a break. At what point do we stop making excuses and actually admit what the real motivation is here?
So earlier this year, I decided to fix my relationship with men and start listening to them a little bit more and stop being so defensive about everything that they say. And the more I speak to men and the more I become friends with them and hear their viewpoints, the lesser of a feminist I become. I feel like
Oh, here's the other thing. Feminism comes from women. Alexander, it comes from women. It doesn't come from a meteorite from the sky. It's not like the blob, right? This is a part of their nature. It's a symptom of it.
I don't resonate with being a feminist anymore. So now I'm a misandrist, and a very proud one.
You can tell that she thinks she's just delivered some kind of like clever mic drop, but I got news for you. There's no difference between a feminist and a misandrist. You haven't changed anything. Feminism is a hate group, and we
Yes.
need to become comfortable calling it that. This widespread cultural gaslighting has got to stop. Feminists are not noble activists motivated by a desire for justice and equality. Feminism is a movement of hate that intentionally dehumanizes men to justify stripping them of their rights.
Yes, mic drop. Mic drop. I've been saying this all along, Alexander, and you're getting this is important because your channel is huge, right? Mine is tiny. Sure, I'd like it to grow, but what's more important is someone with your reach says these things. I don't mind being a small fish in a big pond.
It is no longer acceptable to just point to your 18-year-old cousin who says that she's a feminist and she's sweet and naive and she just believes in equal rights and then says, well, therefore, because she calls that feminism, that's okay. No.
No. Your sweet cousin doesn't believe in equal rights. This is what you have to understand. She doesn't. No woman believes in equal rights. Sorry, Grace, I don't want to stick you at this. That's better. No, the average woman demands that men pay for dates and give them engagement rings if they want to get married. That is not equality. The average woman is for inequality.
Actually happening is that feminist fascists are pointing at her to distract us from what's really going on, what feminism has actually morphed into. I want to show...
No, not morphed into. Has always been. Alexander, the White Feather campaign was first wave. And that was feminists giving white feathers to young men to ship them to war to die. Well, they never had to do that. They never had to just put their lives on the line. It has always been this way.
You something. These are 10 objective criteria that can be used to distinguish whether or not something is a hate movement or a rights movement. You can pause it and have a read of it if you're really interested, but I'll just tell you, you're a hate group if you advocate for restricting the rights of others.
Yes, agreed. Let's see. Dehumanizing language? Yup. Right. Violence endorsement? 100%. 100%. Institutional targets versus people targets. Oh, yeah, this is 100% true.
You endorse violence towards the outgroup if you use dehumanizing language. So as an experiment, I then asked Claude to use data from the last 20 years to determine, using those 10 criteria, whether feminism and men's rights activism fall into the category of a hate group or a rights group. In part 2 of this video, I go through all 10 of these criteria, all of these answers in a lot of detail, if you're interested in that kind of depth. But skipping ahead to the results, it judged that for all 10 criteria, men's rights activists clearly met the definition of a rights movement. The core grievances hold up to empirical scrutiny. There's no dehumanization or advocacy for violence against...
Yeah, exactly. You know something? I'm going to bring it further. There's outside of the men's rights movement, Grace, I don't see men drinking out of female tears mugs. I drink female tears. That doesn't happen. This is a one-way fight, a one-way street.
The outgroup, there's tolerance of internal variations. You can look through the results there. But essentially, men's rights as a movement is ideologically clean. We are what we say we are. Now compare that to feminism. In contrast, it only scored a 1 out of 10 for meeting the criteria of a rights movement. In 9 out of 10 criteria, it cleanly maps onto the characteristics of a hate group. Again, there's a full discussion of all of the details of that in part 2. But it's...
To be honest, Alexander, guys shouldn't have to bring this up. It's observably a hate movement.
It's really just confirming what we already know. When you think of the
Yes.
word feminist that comes into your mind, you're not thinking of some beautiful, kind model expression of femininity who just radiates inclusion and caring and nurturing. No, the image that most people have when they hear the word feminist is an angry, spiteful, vindictive woman who quite ironically lacks any obvious femininity. Now, the mainstream...
But hold it. Alexander, feminine women are the most misandric. They're the most. When you say feminine, what you mean is she appeals to you in some way. That doesn't make her on your side. Doesn't make, well, I should say us, because I'm a guy too. That doesn't make them us. It doesn't make them on our side. I'm going to ask you something. Go to these feminine women that you like, Alexander. Ask them 2 questions. Do they believe in the glass ceiling? And do they believe in the wage gap? These have been debunked over and over again. These feminine women say, yes, those exist and they're real. They are not on our side. They are misinterest.
Has been gaslighting us for decades and saying the fact that we hold that as a stereotype, that's like evidence of some kind of deficiency in us. Like it's our fault that we have eyes and ears and we notice things. But this
Yeah, gaslighting is abuse. Men for generations have been dealt this kind of abuse.
Stereotype did not arise from nowhere. The reason we have such a negative view of feminists is because that's our experience. You maybe have never called it this before. You haven't reached for this kind of vocabulary, but you know it. You know it as cleanly as the truth of gravity. Feminism is a hate group. They are motivated by a hatred of men. They are not fighting for equality. They are fighting for female supremacy and male subjugation. And they are vicious to anybody who stands in their way.
Very nice. Very nice. Nicely put, Alexander. By the way, this young lady, she's very happy. You know why? Because women aren't interested in guys, right? She's at a time in history, she doesn't need to gain what men offer directly. So the mask is off. She can pick up a guy in the next hour if she wanted. Women don't because they're not interested. This is something you and other guys have to come to terms with. I definitely have, right?
If we extend the absolute maximum benefit of the doubt to these women and say that they don't know that they are part of a hate group, it's just an issue of ignorance. They're just naive and they just happen to be mistaken. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because, and this is proof, by the way, or at least evidence, Alexander, that misogyny doesn't exist. Because black men did not hold white nationalists to this. They didn't keep holding out olive branches. They recognized immediately the white nationalist was against them. It's because men are in love with women and are obsessed with them that they keep doing this. They refuse to believe.
Okay. But then why is it that every time that ignorance is corrected, when men offer proof, when they bring up facts, when we talk about male suffering and we expose the lies of feminism, how they manipulate statistics and attack people who speak out about like domestic violence against men. If this is just a case of being naive and being mistaken, why is it that when presented with that information, feminists don't concede, they double down? They become more irate, more...
Well, the thing is, Alexander, sorry, I'll get off the open mouth.
More angry. That doesn't...
Yeah, because the answer is, just think about it with black men and white nationalists, or Jewish men with white nationalists, right? They don't come to these other groups, these hate groups, and say, oh, I'm a really nice black guy. You'd get to know me. You'd like me. They don't do that. Do they? Again, the only reason men give women this countless outs or I'm screwing it up, but like they forever hold out the olive branch because they're begging women to be nice to them. This is begging when they do that.
Doesn't sound like ignorance or an innocent mistake to me. I feel like I'm getting a bit overheated, a bit too passionate in this video. Let's take a breather.
No, dude. You are properly heated. Men need this. Men need this. You don't know how many years when I first got on YouTube, I saw anti-feminist, being nice and calm and collective and thinking, yeah, this will really get people motivated, which really they're just afraid of showing vulnerability. You're showing vulnerability. You're saying, I'm a victim, which you are. And guys do not want that to be seen because men get crapped on when they show vulnerability.
Can you
And we've got to overcome that, by the way.
guess what is the one simple, easy thing that you can do that has been proven to reduce stress, improve cognition, and slow the aging process?
Oh, sorry. I'll just get past this. Okay, next. Where are we? Right about here. Oops.
Or did she respond to you with emotion, with anger, with hatred? Or what about the next excuse that most feminism is very, very moderate, that the extreme elements only exist on the fringes? But if that's the case, then why is it when people say things like men are evil on mainstream podcasts, the comment sections are filled with nothing but women applauding and celebrating that kind of language?
Yes, you're getting it. You're getting it. Alexander. Feminism is just a symptom of basic female nature. This is common from women. And you know something? I want to point out in your comment section, here's some guy right here, fine-tuned universe speaking, blaming something else, right? Cultural Marxist. These guys are always blaming some other group or some other force. Like Marxist is a tiny little group. Feminism is tremendous and worldwide. If you are smart, Alexander, you'll stomp on guys like that in the comment section. You won't let them get away with that. This is cope and denial. You think this average woman speaking here talked to a Marxist and then act like she is here? No.
And are evil. That is true. Like man as a whole is evil. Like just as an entity, a general idea. Like it's okay if we say that out loud. It's okay if we say that men are inherently evil. It's like it's not all men, but for some reason.
And this is why this has to be censored. Right? This is when guys say, no, we have to stop this hate speech, Alexander. There'll be woman worshippers saying, oh, no, I'm pro-speech. And all these guys who are pro-speech, like that clown down there talking about cultural Marxist, if I went to his Discord or his group and went down on marriage, he would ban me. He would ban me from his group. We've seen it too many times. This hate speech has to be censored. There has to be consequences when someone speaks evil like this.
Always a man. Every time something terrible happens, always a man. Like 99% of the time.
People want to pretend that mainstream feminism isn't hateful or radical, but just do a poll of the women around you, just whether they identify as a feminist or not. Ask them whether or not they believe that women who claim to be victims of sexual assault are unfairly discriminated against in our system, which demands due process and evidence. Ask them who they believe are the primary victims of domestic violence. Ask them if they think that domestic violence is caused inherently by masculinity. Ask them if they believe in a guaranteed equal custody arrangement between mother and father. Do you see the genius of the fraud that has been perpetrated upon us? Because what feminism has managed to do is it has shifted the Overton window so far in their favor that genuinely hateful, ridiculous, unfair positions are just considered normal. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but you know something, Alexander? We saw that in second wave. Right after the Second World War and all this money started pumping into North America. And life became easy. It's not the last 20 years, dude. This has been going on for 60 years, if not 70.
Of course, that's just regular. There's nothing extreme about that. Really, framing violence as an inherent trait of an entire gender, that's not hateful, that's not extreme. The fact that women are more likely to be violent in relationships, that doesn't shift you at all. You don't think that it's an extreme position that women...
And oh, here's the other thing. They didn't shift the window. The window was already there. Women could always talk shit about men. Because men worship women and they allow it.
Can abort their child without the permission from a father, but if she chooses to have him, he has to pay child support for 18 years, even though he had no say in the whole thing. You think it's reasonable that men have to fight to access their own children after a divorce? This just seems normal to you. Nothing hateful, nothing unfair, nothing extreme about any of these positions. The point I am trying to make is that what feminism presents itself to be as just a normal, rational, moderate position to take is bullshit. They keep telling you that it's normal, that it's about fairness.
Right. There are no moderate feminists, just like there's no moderate KKK members. That's what you have to understand. All you have to do is think of it in the form of the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement, did they consider the KKK moderates? No, they didn't, did they?
In order to hide how fucking crazy unfair it is. Feminism as an ideology, as a position to hold, is not moderate. It is inherently extreme. You cannot justify these positions with reference to the evidence. We have tangible data on the number of false accusations that women make, particularly during a divorce proceeding or a child custody hearing. We know that female-female relationships are significantly more violent than heterosexual or male-male relationships, and that when there is non-reciprocal violence in a relationship, 70% of the time it is the woman. And we know that children raised by single mothers vastly underperform compared to children raised by single fathers. Not even close. If you are a feminist, then it is clearly not evidence that is informing your positions.
Oh, by the way, Alexander, that's why that woman will never get into a debate with you, right? Women like that, they're only going to show up to these woman worshipers. Whoever's interviewing her and allowing her to talk is a woman worshiper and wants her time, and he's willing to take the abuse in order just to have her around.
It's hatred, and pretending like this is a fringe issue is a complete red herring.
If I'm going to go on a date with a man, I am only open to experiencing the benefits of the patriarchy. If I have to pay to hang out with a man, I'm not going.
Yes, there you go. You see, this is the other thing. I'm going to listen to see what you have to say, because this woman is admitting that the male-female relationship is one of prostitution. Alexander, would you pay a guy to be your best friend? No, people would look at you and call you pathetic and say, that guy's not your real friend. Every woman has her attitude. So this is how shameful. Guys actually think a guy is a winner by paying a woman to dine, to, give her presents to him. Dates are prostitution.
Thought of that makes me want to yak. Excuse me, sir. I am only going to participate in these patriarchal shenanigans if it's for the free. Why would I pay to participate in the shenanigans? It makes no sense.
It is considered conventional, mainstream feminist orthodoxy that we live in a patriarchy, that masculinity is toxic and that men are just trying to hoard all the power for themselves. They want.
Okay, I'm going to listen to you, Grace. I want to tell you this to you in case you don't say it. There is no patriarchy. We live in a matriarchy, and we always have, and it's worldwide. We'll see if you say that. And again, these women are gaslighting and projecting. They're the power-hungry people.
All the privilege and they want to keep women down. I've said this in a previous video, I've said this in this video, and I'm going to say it again. Watch what happens when you treat a woman's accusation as a confession. Is it really men who are thinking in terms of power, trying to establish some kind of gender supremacy? Do you think that's really what the men's rights activists are talking about? That they're trying to lock in their privilege? That's what's motivating them? Is that what we're doing? Or is that what feminism is doing?
Not just feminism, dude, the average woman. This woman, we don't know if she's a feminist. No, that whether she carries the card. She might turn around and say she's not. This is basic female behavior.
A narrative that exists independent of evidence, creating principles that were never intended to be applied universally, creating a value system that on the one hand justifies the mistreatment and stripping of the rights of men, while at the same time disguising the hatred that they feel by framing that movement as though it's a fight for justice and equality.
Simply put, if a man tells me that he hates women, I know that he's dangerous. If a woman tells me that she hates men, I know it just because she's been emotionally done wrong. I don't care.
No, this woman is, again, this is all projection. All projection. This is night and day, gaslighting. It's the other way around.
I don't care if a woman says, I hate men. In fact, I encourage her. You should hate men.
Okay, let's recap. In this...
Hey, it must have been the cultural Marxist that made her say that. Right.
Video so far, I've covered how
Okay, I think I'm not going to bother last minute. No, second thought I will. I'll hear you out.
Designating men as the enemy gives women an outlet for their emotional venting. I've explained why ignorance doesn't hold up as an excuse for women who are part of this hate group of feminism. And I've also explained why this is not some fringe extremist position. In part 2, I want to go into more of the detail.
Okay, good. That's Alexander. You did good. I'd say 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. I've added the 10th. You know, you've got to understand, right, that, you know, these women, again, feminism comes from them. The average woman feels like this. Maybe she's not as vicious, but the average woman thinks these thoughts. They think that there's a glass ceiling. They think that men are holding them down, or at least they like saying so. And when you present them with the evidence that proves that not just it proves them wrong, they'll fight tooth and nail because they want the right to abuse you and to strip us all of our rights. That's a fact. And thank you.